So when you get injured, I never ask you this. I was always curious about this. You always hear, so Chaz was supposed to be Beaver Cleavage, which he was. And
Yeah.
then I heard that you were supposed to come back as an evil clown.
I was, well, when I first was supposed to come back, Bruce Pritchard called me up. He goes, "Hey, listen, we're going to try to, separate you and Chaz for a little while and stuff like that. The idea I have is I'm going to be your manager, and we're going to bring you back as the evil clown Doink. So you're going to be the evil clown." He goes, "I'm going to go around on TV and I'm going to start collecting items." And if you remember back then, Bruce would go, during the hardcore matches, and he would go pick up like a street sign and he would take it in the back and stuff like that. And he goes, "When you come back," he goes, "you're going to be Doink the evil clown, and we're going to just, run with it and see how it goes." I didn't feel any which way about it. I didn't, it was like, oh man, I really, I'm comfortable with Chaz. Chaz is like my, steady. I mean, when you're comfortable with something and stuff like that, you don't want to be ripped away from it and stuff like that. And I was already out for, I think it was like 9 months. And but I was willing to try and stuff like that. And then for some reason, they started that GTV, and they were going to try to tie everything together with, at first it was supposed to be Gold Dust, then it was supposed to be Glenn TV, and then it was supposed, because eventually the way GTV ended was me catching Chaz's manager, putting the makeup on her face and stuff like that, and that's how I got him back to doing the Headbanger stuff. So I think that the clown thing just it fizzled out. They saw, that we were better together than we were separate. Because it was just back then, if you think about it, back in the mid 90s and late 90s, that grunge and that type of grunge music and the headbanging music, Marilyn Manson. God, don't go see Marilyn Manson. And then every kid went to see Marilyn Manson because you were told not to. It was really big back then. So that's, they kind of kept going and running with it and stuff like that. It's so weird. I wish I would have did things differently back then, to be honest. I didn't go to a Federation doctor for my knee surgery. I went to somebody that was, in South Jersey. I didn't go to Dr. Andrews like everybody else did. It wasn't something that was offered to me, so I didn't really know. So I wish, that whole injury, it got in my head, and it really, really messed with me really bad. Like when I first came back, I knew I couldn't run right, and I wasn't running right, and I was taking too many steps across the ring. I was tentative with a lot of things, and it was one of those, because I've never been hurt before. I've never had a surgery, never nothing. I broke my collarbone, I broke my nose, several hundred times. It just lays flat. It's just weird. See, it's just flat. Like this way, I can't do it. This way, flat. So I never had like a really big injury like that, and it really got into my head, really bad. So that was probably what did me in. What was that? And I could never get that out of my head. So, me and Chaz came back together. I wasn't in the best shape that I could have been in, because I was afraid. I was afraid of my knee. I was afraid of everything that was going on. I mean, you're talking about, 25 years ago, when, these things were not like where they are now. So I never got it out of my head. And so they sent me down to Memphis that's when they had their farm team or whatever down there and stuff like that. And I was so frustrated. I wasn't where I once was, and I knew it. And I knew it. And it stopped me from going to the gym. It stopped me from really giving it my 100. And, I got a call from Bruce one day, and he was like, "Hey, listen, we don't know if this is going to work." I'm like, "Yeah, I agree." And he's like, "Well, let's just, you go your way, we'll go ours, no hard feelings." And I've never had any hard feelings with JR or Bruce or Vince or anybody back then. It's a business. It's a business first. And I got it and I understood it. And it was my fault. All that back then, it was my fault. That's why when I got out of wrestling right then and coming back, I totally moved everything. I moved down to Florida. I lived in South Jersey. Chaz already lived down here. We didn't talk for, 10 years. We didn't talk to each other at all. Because he was down here, I was up there. I was doing my thing. He was doing his thing. We both weren't in wrestling. So then he reached out one time and he goes, "Hey, let's do this convention together and stuff like that." And so we did a convention up in Newark at one of those, I forget even what it was. And he's like, "Listen, you should come down to Florida and move down there, blah, blah, blah." I had a really good job. I was an area supervisor for Domino's and I was running one store and I had, control over 5 other stores. So I had a really good job after wrestling, but there was always that one thing that bothered me is how it all ended. And it didn't end like the way I wanted it to end. So me and my wife and my kids and stuff like that, we went to a vacation down in Florida. We went to Orlando and Chaz was having his 40th birthday party. So it was supposed to be a surprise. And I came and everything else. And, we're like taking pictures and I'm looking at pictures like the next day. And I just saw myself, I was 315 pounds, maybe 320 pounds. And I was just, I was huge and I was unrecognizable. You couldn't, if you looked at me, you wouldn't know it was me. And I was just so out of it. And Chad's like, "Listen, let's not end it the way we ended it. Move, come down here. We'll get back together. We'll go, you can go to the gym and everything else and not whatever." So driving all the way back up to Jersey after the vacation and stuff like that, I get up there. My dog just had 9 puppies. So I had 9 dogs. I had 2 kids that were under 6. I had a whole house in the back of a U-Haul, and I quit my job and I just moved. I had no job. I had no nothing. I had no place to live, no nothing. And we moved down to Florida. We were on the Tampa side, and we were just doing sightseeing. It was like a vacation. Chaz is like, "Come over. We'll do Sunday fun day over the house and blah, blah, blah." And we'll start talking and stuff like that. So we did that. And we're driving 4 hours from Tampa to West Palm Beach. And it was terrible. He's like, "Move over here." He goes, "We can, there's a gym over here. It's called UFit Health Clubs. You can start going there. It's $10 a month. It's great, blah, 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 and everything else." So we go over there. We find a house. I'm going to the gym 2 times a week. I'm going or 2 times a day. And I'm just dropping crazy weight. I lost 100 pounds. I was down to 215 pounds, but I looked like I was sick. I looked like I had cancer or I was all sunken in the face. It just, again, I went from one extreme to the other. And so we started back in the ring and everything else. And it was just great. I got a job. I started working with UFit. And it was like a full circle. And then when we got, full circle, and then we got the invite to go to, WWE and do the Smackdown thing and everything else. It was 100% a full circle. And it was, we didn't even have to say anything to each other. We just looked at each other and we were just, it was awesome. It was an awesome feeling because, my oldest 2 kids don't remember watching me on TV because they were so little. Kaz's son never saw him on TV, and just, he would go to these little arenas and little shows that we do around here and stuff like that. But that was the one thing Chaz always wanted for his son, was to see him on TV. And what I wanted for my oldest 2 kids was to understand why Daddy was gone. They never understood that. They just thought Daddy had a different job and stuff like that. They weren't all into that. "Oh, well, Daddy's a superstar and this, that, and everything else." They weren't like that. They just didn't know why Daddy was never home. So it was neat. It was a full circle, and it felt so good. And then to be invited back again and again made it even better. So very extremely grateful. It just goes all those no's. There's no sayers out there that said that we had heat with them and we were voted one of the worst tag teams ever to have a belt and all that other stuff. And you know, they're going to write stuff to sell magazines and they're going to say things to do that and stuff like that. We never had a problem with Vince. We never had a problem with Stephanie, Shane, Triple H, Shawn. We never had problems with anybody up there. There was never any kind of heat or anything with anybody in the office. We still talk to Jerry Briscoe to this day. You know, it was definitely a time that, you know, there's some things I wish I could have did different, like with the whole injury thing and everything else that I could have did different. But, you know, I'm just grateful that we were able to, you know, eventually go back in 2016 for even a couple of shows. It was something else. It's undescribable, actually. You know, when people ask me, oh, what was it like to win the tag team belts? I don't know. Ask Tom Brady what it's like to win the Super Bowl. It's the same thing. That's what that is. You know, it's the Super Bowl of our sport. You know, WrestleMania is the Super Bowl of our sport. Those tag belts is you're the best of the best. And, you know, that's what they see you as. So, you know, I really wish that we would get, you know, different credit, you know, for being, we were a pure tag team. We weren't put together. We were a pure tag team. We took a lot of what Ricky and Robert did, what a lot of the Midnight Express did, and mixed everything together. I mean, they were tag teams. They were, you know, Daniel Bryan and Kane put together and call it a tag team. To me, that's not a tag team. You know, Demolition, that's a tag team. LOD, they're a tag team. Billy and Road Dogg were thrown together, but became a tag team. You know, some of these guys that you just put together, you just know it doesn't work. So, I mean, it gets me a little heated from time to time when nobody, you know, gives us the credit or anything else like that. Whether you loved the gimmick or hated the gimmick, you can't take away what we did in the ring or, you know, the camaraderie and the tag team stuff that we did do in the ring, because nobody else did it like us.